Once again, I would like to welcome you for today's Sutta discussion. As you can see in the screen, we have been discussing Sabbasawa Sutta, all the 10s, the second Sutta of the middle-end discourses of the Buddha. We have been spending 2 sessions to discuss many of the aspects of the Sabbasawa Sutta, but we have left some, and we are going to cover them today and finish the discussion on Sabbasawa Sutta. I remember that we discussed this particular discourse 3 years ago. However, the content of the discourse is always relevant and could be new to us because it talks about something new, something important.
Do you think it is Sabbasava?
Yeah.
I thought it was Sabbasava, Asava. No?
Yeah, it's a combination of 2 words here. Sabba means all, Asava means the 10s. So when you combine words in either in Sinhala or Pali or Sanskrit, the sounds become different. So it's Sabbasava, Sabba Asava. So if I show you the objectives, of course, that would be very clear. First of all, we have to read and understand the discourse. Then in the reading, we can find those information where the Buddha was residing when the discourse is delivered, and who and to whom the Buddha delivered this discourse, and what is the purpose of the discourse. And if I jump into this particular discourse, we talk about the Asava, so 10. So we are going to know about Asava in general, and when we discuss the detail, we come to know each aspect of Asava. So
there you are written A-W-A-S-A, not Asava, Avasava.
Yeah, the Asava is the particular word. Yeah. Sabba means the Pali word Sabba means all. So when we combine the 2 words together, it sounds different.
No, Bhante, there is a typo. That's what I think.
Really?
Yeah, in D.
In number D.
D.
What is? Oh yeah, now I see that.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I was saying.
Okay. yeah, there should be. Yeah, as long as you saw it, so I could correct it later because you see the mistake.
D and E.
Yeah. Then the number of us, again there is a mistake. I think I am right in the last point. F is asava the same as tanha or different? So I'm sorry about that. This is a general overview of a discourse when you really discuss read a sutta. So as we discuss many of them, we can go quickly into other aspect of the discourse. In the introduction, we came to know that the Buddha delivered this particular sermon to a group of monks at the Jayewardenaramaya Monastery. The topic of the discourse, the Buddha started by saying that Sabbasawa Sangvara Paryayang vo bhikkave desessami, because I shall teach you a discourse on the restraint of all the 10s. That's how Buddha started. So we cannot find any other discourse similar to this, especially when about Asava. This is the discourse that he covers all the aspect of Asava, 10. So this statement of the Buddha is so relevant because he he is explaining every aspect of it. So, tang sunata sadhukang manasikarota basissamiti. The meaning, sunata jarita charata medyat. Give ear to the Dhamma. Sunata, give ear to the Dhamma. Sadhukang manasikarota. Store them in your mind strongly and firmly. Manasikarota basissamiti. I am going to tell it to you. So, listen to what I am going to tell. Store them in your mind to be able to use them whenever you need. So that's one of the common advice of the Buddha when he started a discourse. That way he could drag and attract people's attention to what he said. So he used that type of phrases in almost all the discourses. What is asava, taints? We discussed this fact in numerous ways, but here I refer to another discourse called Mahavedalla. It says states that defile, bring about rebirth, give trouble, ripen in pain, bringing further rebirth, decay and death. Aso sankilesika, pono bhavika, sadara dukkha, vipaka, ayating, jati jara maraniya. So don't worry about trying, reading the Pali because it takes time. But the meaning is that anything, any mental state that could give pain, suffering, and more suffering, and as a result, any of those things comes into being are called asava. So asava is being explained as influxes, fermentation, outflows, effluence, cankers, corruption, and taints. These are some of the terms we use to translate asava into English. Defilement existing at the deepest level of the mind, fuel and sustain sansaric existence, to flow inward or outward. So basically, asava, when we use the word asava to some sort of unwholesome feeling, they are going to flow from this moment to another. And it is always has a connections to so many other defiled states. It means if you see the picture, both two pictures on both sides, it shows you the way asava could work. It attached to other mental state. Even the peaceful state could be defiled. Actually, that's what happened. When defilements arise in our mind, peaceful state of our mind, peaceful nature of our mind turn into defilements. Just like one bad apple can make the other apples bad as well. So, if we allow asava to function in our mind, so whole atmosphere, all behavior of our life could be defiled. So, and the difficulty with asava is that it's just like a web. It goes on and on. It goes underneath. It's invisible. The level of asava, the way the asava function could not be easily judged because they lie under our deepest level of our mind. So we know that the Buddha destroyed all kinds of asava when he attained to full enlightenment. But namely, there are only 4 asavas. Kamasava, taints or sensual desire for sensual pleasures, and bhavasava, desire for existence, and ditthasava, clinging to views and ideas, and avijjasava, clinging to ignorance or taints of ignorance. These are the 4 things. no matter how many individual defiled states are there, everything could be included into these four, right? So that shows how deep and profound these asavas are. We discussed this in the discourse, three types of asava: the influx or asava or taints, whichever words we could use here. Here I use influx of sensual desire, kama asava. The influx of or desire for existence, bhava asava, and the influx of ignorance, avidya asava. When we use these terms, we should understand that kama asava, bhava asava, avidya asava, or ignorance, existence, and sense desire, these defiled states always tend to flow from present to future. And we know that how the past, the present, and the future creates. So always we have the present moment, and it turns into past as well as it flows into the future. So theoretically and practically we have only the present moment, and we cannot pinpoint the past and future because the past is gone and future is not arisen yet. Practically, let's forget about theoretically, practically there is only one time period, that's the present moment. So kama asava, bhava asava, avidya asava, and also ditta asava, these four asavas or three asavas always flowing to the future from the present moment. So in the discourse, Buddha said, Bhikkhus, I say that the destruction of the taints for the one who knows and sees, not for the one who does not know and see. We discussed this fact that asavas could be realized only for someone who has already started the training and also well trained in basic requirements. They are the people who know something. They are the people who could see these asavas. They are the people who are ready to take the challenge. Who knows and sees what? Wise attention and unwise attention. Friends, if you understand wise attention and unwise attention clearly, it covers a lot. It means to us that we have mindfulness, we have sense of wisdom, we have other spiritual faculties started with the wise attention and yoniso manasikara. If you know wise attention and unwise attention, it means that you have the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is right understanding. Along with that, Buddha elaborates further down into the fact Yoniso Manasikara and Ayoniso Manasikara by saying, when one attends unwisely, unarisen taints arise and arisen taints increase. When one attends wisely, unarisen taints do not arise and arisen taints are abandoned. So the strategy here is to have wise attention. If you want to go on the path peacefully, and if you have wise attention, there is no any problem in dealing with asava, because you are going to cut asava slowly and slowly. So we have Yoniso Manasikara and Ayoniso Manasikara here. Why do we need to understand these two terms? Because that's the beginning of the training. Perhaps you do not know all these technical terms and how they are going to break into, but you have been you had studied without knowing those academic things, but it is good to know them. Yoniso means, yoni means the womb or the origin of something. Manasikara means thinking or function of our mind. So Yoniso Manasikara means using our mind wisely, thinking wisely. Attention is the quality of our mind. Attention is the way we think. So we use our mind wisely. Ayoniso Manasikara is the opposite of it, not directing the attention to the roots of everything or directing the attention away from the roots of things. I have given some examples here for Ayoniso Manasikara, unwise attention. It's called irrational attention. It's not methodical, and also it's away from right things. So unwise attention, Ayoniso Manasikara has food for it to arise. What are the causes and conditions for Ayoniso Manasikara to arise in our mind? Listening to wrong Dhamma, listening to unnecessary thing for peaceful state of mind. How about if you listen to somebody's bad things, problems and so forth? We may be able to know them because we are social beings, but what happened to our peace of mind? We become a part of it. Suppose you had to listen to bad politics and bad of somebody, so you slowly start blaming based on ethical reasons, based on this reason, that reason, and so forth. At the end of the conversation, your mind becomes deluded, your mind becomes slightly upset. You could not find that peaceful state of your mind. You don't have anything wrong in your end. You are not wrong. But what happened to us when we discuss something negative of somebody? Slowly we take a side and start developing some unrest, feelings, perception, and so forth. So it happens to me, it happened to you. That's why Buddha asks us to be away from 32 unnecessary talks. Right? In the text we find 32 topic of conversation that one should not have in terms of finding peace and happiness, because you are going to develop so many unrest and unwholesome state of your mind. So listening to wrong things could develop unwise attention, and unwise attention itself is a food for unwise attention. Unwise attention always create a space in our mind for unwise attention. So wise attention is so much appreciated in many discourses. Buddha said in a different discourse, monks, before the sun rises, there is the forecast and precedence of dawn. In the same manner of the rising of the Noble Eightfold Path to the monk, the forecast and precedent is the accomplishment wise thinking. So I told you the other day that before the sun rising, we can see some light in the east sky. That shows that the sun is definitely rising. It happens 1 hour or 1.5 hours before the sun rising. It's called Arunodaya in Pali, even in Sinhala. Aruna means the time before the sun rising, and the some light and that state of the sky in the east definitely shows us that the sun is rising in about an hour or so. Likewise, Yodiso Manasikara is a sign of the development of the Noble Eightfold Path for monks, for a nun, for a lay person, and for anybody. So that's how Buddha appreciated wise attention, and also people who practice wise attention. We discussed that the importance of right effort is vitally important in the discourse, because it comes with the wise attention. We do not go to spend that much time there. So these are the 10 fetters. I don't know whether you could read these small letters here. 10 fetters are the defiled state that a person takes or deals when he or she meditate because in terms of attaining full enlightenment or any other enlightened state. So we have 10 here: Sakkaya Ditthi, personality view; spiritual doubts, Vicikiccha, attachment to rituals and vows; Silabhata Paramasa, sensual lust; repulsion; greed for form existence; greed for formless existence; conceit; restlessness, and ignorance. These are the 10 things we have to destroy to be an enlightened person. You don't have that much, or there are only 10. So, personality view, the view called I, me, and myself. So, if somebody yield as Sarat, so you do not want to think that it is my name and who is calling me and so on. You directly say it is me. So because from the very beginning of your life, your parents have given this name, and you learn from a very deepest point of your mind that Sarat is my name. So likewise, all of us have that identity. So that identity itself develops the view called I, me, and myself. So a physical body is given a name, and that name is taking the responsibility to own many things around that body, that person. So it's not that easy to do away with the personality, but with right practice we can take care of it. So likewise, we can discuss each and every points, factors of the 10 fetters, but here the point is to show you what kind of fetters we have, and the asavas develop these 10 fetters. Those 3 or 4 asavas produces, develops, maintain these 10 fetters. Whenever a monk or a nun or lay person destroy these 10 fetters, asavas also going away from the mind. So now these are the 7 asavas in the discourse. We need to remember these 7 asavas. 10 that should be abandoned by seeing. We discussed that. 10 that should be abandoned by restraining. 10 that should be abandoned by using. 10 that should be abandoned by enduring. 10 that should be abandoned by avoiding. 10 that should be abandoned by removing. 10 that should be abandoned by developing. So we have 7 type of asavas, and there are 7 ways to destroy them: by seeing, by restraining, by using, enduring, avoiding, removing, and developing. I told you that the asavas that should be abandoned by restraining has only that way to destroy them. to abandon them. There are no other ways. So if you are going to destroy asavas by seeing with the way of restraining, it could not happen, because particular action should be taken to do away with the particular asava. If I go from the fourth one, I think this is the second one. I think we discussed them. Here I would like to stay for a minute in this slide just to show 6 animals. Have you seen these 6 animals before? A snake, a crocodile, a bird, a dog, a hyena, and a monkey. So these 6 animals have different domains, different way of life. Their physical bodies and the strengths are different from each other. So Buddha mentioned these 6 animals and asked us to tie these 6 animals into one rope. We know that they are not friends. We know that they are not eating together, they are not living together. So everybody is trying to go away from, dragging each other. So the strongest, I believe, a hyena or a crocodile, so they might try dragging other animals, but nobody can, because even the smallest could contribute some way or the other with the strength. So that becomes a power. So each animal's exhausted at the end, not being able to drag the other 5 animals. So Buddha compare those 6 animals into 6 senses, right? Eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. Like the 6 animals have different domains, different way of life, different food, different things, and so on, these 6 senses have different foods, different ways of taking information. The mind itself is a sense, and it has the sense objects, mind, and what do you call, not thought, but thinking and ideas, initial state of ideas. So why do we take this simile of the Buddha here? Asava or taints or any defiled state arise through 6 senses. With the wise attention, if we are going to understand 6 senses as they are, we are going to use them properly and allow wise attention to function or navigate us into peace and happiness. So the key part of this training into peace is the 6th sense and understanding of the 6 senses. So someone could think that, oh, understanding 6 senses are not that difficult, because we could definitely see the 5 senses, 5 physical senses: eyes, nose, tongue, body, and body. But controlling them and keeping them according to the Dhamma is not that easy. However, the start of spiritual training in the Buddha's teaching begins by understanding the 6 senses. The wise attention, part of the wise attention is to understand the 6 senses and it function well. So if we are tying the 6 senses with mindfulness, it's called wise attention. It means that when you see pictures, you know that produces my eyes, and brain takes the information and then produce ideas. The sound is coming through ears, and they are only sounds, and it is we who interpret the sounds as good, beautiful, nice, and so on, and ideas come from that. So we are going to know the procedure of creating ideas through six senses. So it's not that uh, simple in the spiritual training. It's more widely covered aspect of the teaching. So understanding six senses and their function is really important. So Buddha asks us to tie the six senses with the rope of mindfulness together, then they are not going to be wild and uncontrolled. So we have to have mindfulness when we use six senses. So that's why we take the six sense here. We quickly go through this fact. 10 that should be abandoned by using. I told you the other day, actually we finished the discussion at the last meeting with this fact. I believe that we discussed enough. When we use food, clothes, our houses, lodgings, and medicinal requisite, we are to be mindful of what purposes are there for us to use this. So, are we mindful when we use our clothes? No, we cannot expect that type of strong mindfulness when we use clothes. So when you were getting ready to come to temple, were you mindful about your clothes? No, it's fine, because only people who are ready to attain enlightenment could have that type of mindfulness. But what we really expect here, in order to stop asava or taints, is to know the purpose of using clothes. What is the purpose of using clothes? To cover the body, right? We are civilized people, and we need to cover our body, and to show people that we are good, and we are peaceful, and so on. That's one aspect. There are other aspects that we discuss, to cover the body from heat and cold and flies and mosquitoes and so many things, dust and so forth. Likewise, taking food has a meaning. Using lodgings means houses, rooms, and anything make us comfortable has a meaning, should have a meaning. And then medicinal requisites, just for good health. So if you really think to stop creating more asavas, you have to consider these basic requirements to use them in a proper way. Buddha teaches here the proper way of using four requisites, especially for monks and nuns, and help them to stop new asavas, and the asavas that have arisen, they could stop them in this way. So tends to be abandoned by tolerating. So tolerance is a very good quality, isn't it? Let me read this statement. A monk reflecting appropriately endures. So wise attention is always should be there in order to practice each and every spiritual qualities. Reflecting appropriately, we can endure. What we endure, he tolerates cold, heat, hunger, thirst, the touch of flies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, reptiles, ill-spoken, unwelcome words, bodily feeling that when they arise are painful, wrecking, sharp, piercing, disagreeable, displeasing, menacing to life. So we have to endure all these things. So when you feel cold, if you are a meditator, you have to accept it into a certain extent. it doesn't suggest you to go out in the cold winter without any additional costume and endure the cold. No, it's not what this means. If somebody opened the door or the window of your car, of the house, just for a couple of minutes, you have to accept that, because the person who opened the window of the house or the car does that for a purpose, for him. So, but many people yield that, close it, and make unnecessary noise. That's how I understand. We have to endure those natural occurrences into a certain extent. Suppose you go to a forest monastery and try to meditate. It's not a place with luxurious accommodations. You may have a bed which is very simple and basic, and you don't have that much facilities there, but you accept it. Endurance is there. Okay, I came to try myself in training, because when I am at home, I indulge with all these luxurious things, and I never feel that I practice something. But with the basic, I am going to practice, and endurance is slowly developing in you. So by enduring the basic requirements, you train yourself to survive. That way, you could stop some type of asavas, some type of craving, because you are not going to blame anyone anyone not being able to satisfy you with all these luxurious things. Then, if somebody spoke to you with unpleasant words, that has to be endured as well. But in a normal condition, what our reaction is, saying something, to against, to make a case. If somebody scold at you, you try to react to it. But our idea is to stop asavas or to decrease asavas. Therefore, you are not taking it as you take it in a normal condition, but you disregard it. And also you put your mindfulness and wise attention into actions. Therefore, you do not say anything. So, ill-spoken, unwelcome words, all these things are taken into consideration to develop endurance. The fermentations, vexation, and fever that would arise if he were not to tolerate these things do not arise for him when he tolerates these states that defile, and so forth. So any asavas could develop if you are not mindful about ill-spoken words, unwelcome words, cold, heat, and so forth. Do you understand this? Basically, you have to endure all these things. If you have that ability, you don't create any asavas there. Okay, 10 that should be abandoned by avoiding. We have to learn how to avoid. But in the normal society, in the normal way of life, we have been using this, but that is not what we are speaking here. A monk reflecting appropriately avoids a wild elephant, wild horse, a wild bull, a wild dog, a snake, stump, a bramble patch. If this is related to a monk who is meditating in a deep forest. If you know that this is the way that wild elephant cross, you have to avoid that place. If you know, wild horses, bull, lion, and all the animals come here for water and catching other animals, You have to avoid those places. That's the examples given here. You the meaning is there that you have to avoid some people who speak bad things habitually, who associate wrong way of things, and who do not do good things. You have to avoid them. Why? Why do we avoid people? Do we have envious mind and anger when we avoid people? Usually we have, but here we do not have anger, but out of compassion for oneself, myself, yourself, you have to avoid. Because your target is to stop the space for creating asavas. If you are going to unite with people who have low words and actions and so forth, you are going to be a part of it. So, thinking of your own peace and happiness, you have to avoid people. You have to avoid situation. You have to avoid, uh, you know, uh, severe weather conditions. You have to avoid dangerous animals and so forth. Suppose you have a snake in your room, and you are not going to live with the snake, right? If the snake is not a pet, or you're not going to live with the snake, because snake could bite you, and venom could kill you, and or serious damage to your physical body. So if you know such dangers coming to you, you have to avoid them, right? We avoid the roads if we know ahead of reaching to the road that it is closed, right? We avoid unnecessary things ahead of time. That way of avoiding make us strong in the wise attention and wisdom, uh, and also asavas are not going to develop. Ten that should be abandoned by removing. A monk reflecting appropriately does not tolerate an unreasoned thought of sensuality. He abandons it, dispels it, wipes it out of existence. Reflecting appropriately, he does not tolerate an a recent thought of ill will. So here we have uh, three type of unwholesome thoughts: uh, sensual pleasure, ill will, and cruelty. The total opposite of thought of renunciation, nekama, and thought of loving kindness, metta, and thought of uh, compassion, called karuna. These are the three opposite of those things. So whenever you feel that my mind has sensual pleasures, abandons it. So this is the way we practice removing. You remove the sensual pleasure, you remove the ill will, you remove the cruelty. Have have, have we been practicing this kind of things in our life? We need to think about it, because in order to be certain in the path to everlasting peace and happiness, we have to take these uh, you know challenging practices. They are not easy, they are challenging, because they are, when we live in our life, we used to talk, we used to eat, we used to associate people, we used to go to places and see things around, and we buy things, we do all kind of things. Our mind is not in this level in a normal conditions. Then how could we realize that I have sensual pleasure now, I have ill will, I have sense of cruelty, and so forth? It can happen only for people who are mindful and wise, also who are able to realize that there are such things in the teaching. I'm not making you discouraged by saying that, but my whole purpose is to open your mind towards your life, the way it goes so far. Have we mindful about sensual pleasure when we really have it? If not, we have to. What is sensual pleasure anyway? How could you define? Yeah?
So enjoy what you see.
Yeah.
Interested.
Anything you see, you enjoyed it. And anything you hear, you enjoyed it. Is this suggesting that you shouldn't enjoy anything and everything in life? Today when I walked, two persons coming from the other side asked me, "Are you enjoying your day today?" Then I said yes, because there is no other words to say it. I was thinking of anicca at that particular moment, because at the place I was passing by is unforgettable for me, because one day I saw a bird died there. Until the feathers turn into dust, I could see the part of the dead body. So that place is really nice place to pass by, because I remember the theory of anicca there. So I turn that particular theory into my experience, and I was thinking about it. So if I say that no, I don't enjoy, I experience anicca now, those people will think that I'm a mad person. So I'm giving you a kind of examples related to the society. You may say that I enjoy things, and people say that are you enjoying things, and so on. We have to respond to them with the same thing, but inside of your mind you would reflect that what type of enjoyment are there with the sensual pleasure, if you are really practicing wise attention, right? Because if everything is impermanent, so how could we keep sensual pleasure unchanged? We could have sensual pleasure. These eyes, ears, tongue, body, mind are to enjoy the life without any doubt. There is no controversy over that. But what happened with that sensual pleasure is that it is going to end. It cannot stay with us. Because of this uncertainty or the changing pattern of sensual pleasure, we should not hang on to it. We should leave it out as the way it comes. So the problem of sensual pleasure is that we attach to it and we try ourselves to hold it like this. But it has the nature of changing. Then we become suffer, we become upset, we cry, and so forth. This is the problem of sensual pleasure. So Buddha asked here the disciples to remove it, because it brings you suffering. If you keep it, it brings you suffering. So the monk, wisely and appropriately reflecting, does not tolerate an arisen thought of sensual pleasure, because he has wise attention. Therefore he knows that this particular feeling is going to bring suffering to him. Suppose you are given a glass of wine with some poison. The glass is golden, and it's so expensive, and it's best wine, but it is with poison. Do you drink it? Why? Because it's in a golden, expensive glass and the best wine in the world, and it is given to you by one of your friends. There are so many good things out there that you can drink. Why don't you drink? It is poisonous. So you are removing, you are avoiding it. You are not going to drink it. It's an analogy for something important to understand. Those sensual desires are likened to poison or poisonous things, dangerous things. The one who is mindful and attentive to physical and mental behavior always remove sensual pleasure. Likewise, ill will. I think each civilized person try their best to be away from ill will. Sensual pleasure is deep and widespread than ill will. Of course, ill will is an outcome of sensual pleasures. For example, we have sensual pleasures, and the nature of sensual pleasure is always changing. This moment I need this, next moment I do not need it. This moment I attach to, let's say, you, and next moment I attach to you. So that's how sensual pleasure works. It cannot exist, same way always. Its nature is changing always. As a result of changing its pattern, there could be ill will or other negative mental states. Suppose you like a teledrama or football match or soccer or any other game. You are watching on the television, it's final, your favorite team is scoring well. What happens if the current is gone? Or what happens if somebody come and switch off the television? What happens if somebody come and change the channel? So you are satisfying your mind, you are enjoying sensual pleasures, and it is disturbed by, and you got ill will, you got anger. Anger arises due to sensual pleasures. If you did not like the football game or whatever game you are watching, you are not going to be angry over changing the channel. So this example shows us how sensual pleasures produces the ill will. And cruelty is in line with ill will. Cruelty, the total opposite of compassion. You do not care about anyone around you, even though they are physically ill, even though they lack of food and so on. You disregard those suffering people. So that's kind of cruelty is there in our mind. I'm not saying it's you, but generally people have it. So the monk or the nun or any person who is wise and mindful keep eye open to mental state that are coming, and if he recognize this mental state is belongs to sensual pleasure, this mental state belongs to ill will, cruelty, he or she never enjoys them, quickly remove them from mind. So we have to learn which way we remove. We have to learn the methods of removing. So if you really know what this means, then you know how to remove it. So that's scrutiny is there always of people who practice meditation. Now we go to the seventh. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting confused here.
Yeah.
on the sensual pleasures. Is there a difference between enjoying a nice curry or a bowl of ice cream or a sunset? I know the sunset lasts 10 minutes. I know it's going to go. I know it's limited. Or playing with a child. Is there a difference between these? or a nice piece of music, a nice symphony.
I don't find anything wrong enjoying any of those things you mentioned, the sunshine, music, and the nice curry, ice cream, and so forth, as long as you could take care of your peaceful state of mind in a particular level. I would say that because we have different levels of life. Lay people, monks' life, and life that totally away from normal, state and so on. For different people, there would be different state of enjoyment. Uh, if we speak about general sense of what you said, I don't I don't think it's wrong to feel the taste of ice cream and eat it as much as you want, because at a certain point you stop because your stomach is full, right? At a certain point you come in because sunshine is enough for your body. So you have a physical limit, or there is a limit for your physical body, then you stop it. But the question should be asked, why do I take these? Some people take all these foods and use other natural things, not knowing the limit. And some people do it do as requirements. So, eating food is a requirement. We have to eat. When we feel hunger, we have to eat. That is because to end the hunger, that's the suffering. We have to alleviate that suffering. So we eat food just for survival. We eat food just to destroy hunger. We eat food to keep ourselves healthy and so forth. If we are eating any type of food for this purpose, that's perfect. And if you listen to music just because you like you keep your mind relax and so forth, I would say that it's okay. But what is the purpose? If you understand the music as a sound, if you come to that level of practice, you don't go behind different musical shows and so forth, spending so much money and time, because it's only a sound. That's why I said at the beginning that this way of enjoyment differs from person to person, depending on the wisdom.
When it becomes tanha, then I guess it gets more than what you need.
Yeah, from the spiritual level, from the very subtle spiritual level, anything you take is only for survival or any other such purposes. But in a normal life, if you say that we do not want to attain enlightenment, but we just want to make our life comfortable, easygoing, and so forth. In that level, you may enjoy everything, but if you want to upgrade your practice into a very calm and super state, you would think that tanha could arise, sensual pleasure could arise by this. So that's why monks and nuns come to that life and take extra care in eating, while eating, and in using clothes, and they do not behave like lay people. And so because they know that, and they should know that sensual pleasure could drag them back to the mundane life. We have experienced sensual pleasures so much in our life, so that we know what it brings to us. Let me ask a couple of questions like this. How do you feel your life? It's not only from you. I mean, It's a general question. How do you feel? Are you satisfied with the way you live? Because what I'm asking this question, because we use the six senses always, each and every second of our life. We have been using six senses. The things we produce, six senses, uh, sensory experiences, right? And as human beings, we are looking for pleasure, we are looking for happiness, we are looking for uh, joy in each and every moment. But what I'm asking is, are you happy with the way you live? If you are happy with the way you live, continue to live like that, because you are not developing, you are not having sensual pleasure anymore. If there are sensual pleasures, there would be suffering relative to the level of sensual pleasures. Have you felt boring? That is because of the desire for sensual pleasures. Do you remember any moment that you got angry?
Oh, of course.
That is because of sensual pleasure. Have you experienced anger with some drivers on the road?
Not me.
Have you felt that these politicians and doctors, lawyers, MPs are bad and negative? Feel anger?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's because sensual pleasures. That's because we have expectations, right? The government should be like this, and doctors should be like this, and so on. Have you felt? If you have, if you have felt all these things, that shows that we have sensual pleasures.
So to feel anger towards a politician, for instance, is that related to sensual pleasure?
I related that because that's basically coming from ill will, thought of ill will. That sense is there in our mind. They are relative. Why anger comes for these politicians? Because we have expectation, we have a plan of that person should be like this and so on. That's called sensual pleasure. We attach to a view, we attach to a framework, and it could not be satisfied with this man in the power. So anger or the frustration or ill will comes because he doesn't apply any of those ways of your mind. That's why you become angry.
But isn't that more attachment to view more than a sensual pleasure?
Attachment to waves is also, sensual pleasure is the initial stage of, attachment to views and so forth. So yeah, in the first place, sensual pleasure is there, and it grows into an attachment, either to wheels or self or many other things.
You know what I'm taking out of this is I understand these things, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to practice and I'm not capable of practicing these every moment. But once in a way, I understand all these. If you practice these things, you will attain nibbana. Okay, this is the ultimate. But in my case, I don't think I can, every minute I can think this way and analyze everything and do it. No. But once in a way, I will be able to practice some of things. That's all I expect actually.
For the moment.
For the moment. If I practice this one, maybe my expectation might develop to a certain, the other level, I mean, not at this point.
That's perfect. If you can practice some of these things, that would be really nice, and I'm pretty sure that you will practice the other thing as well. Not necessarily all these things. Take only the first one, wise attention. Yoniso Manasikara. Practice this only Yoniso Manasikara, and you will be touching all these factors that we discuss. If you have wise attention always, that's what we expect from this explanation.
Buddhism doesn't mean that you have to be unhappy with your life, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that.
It doesn't mean that.
Because I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Sometimes I get...
happiness could be defined in different ways.
I know that, yeah.
Happiness could be sensual sensual pleasure is a happiness. We never deny it. Buddhism denies that there is happiness by seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and even thinking. How about if you could not satisfy your seeing? I mean, you plan to go somewhere. Every day there is something happen that you could not go. Suppose you listen to only beautiful words from your husband, but he speaks something different. Suppose you always like to eat tasty food, but you don't get it because you cannot cook, and it is the husband's terms to cook, and then
that's bad luck.
So can you still be happy? If you do not get whatever you wish to have, can you still be happy? That's the problem of sensual pleasure. That's the problem of happiness. I'm not saying that your happiness is not right. Could be you have compassion for your husband, you have loving kindness for everyone whom you associate, and you have understanding about the way of life. These things could bring you happiness and joy in your life. It could be this happiness that you are speaking of. Yeah, if that is the happiness you have, that's perfect. Because you are in the training. You have wise attention. But if we are behind, or if you are looking for happiness through seeing, hearing, tasting, and so forth always, that's problematic, because we have moments in our life that we could not see from our eyes. Now many of you wear glasses, right? And sometimes you could not hear. These senses are limited and they are subject to decay. And the pictures, shapes that we see, that these eyes could see, could also change. This is the problem of sensual pleasures. But if you really say that my happiness is thoroughly shaped by understanding, that's why I'm saying that I'm happy, which is okay. It includes many of those we discussed. There should be mindfulness, wisdom, understanding, hard working is there, you are ethically, morally perfect. That's why you really enjoy your life, which is okay. Okay, now I go to the last two slides. This is the last one. 10 that should be abandoned by developing. Now we have to develop something here to abandon the asavas. Earlier we discussed seeing, enduring, avoiding, removing, using in order to destroy, in order to remove asavas. Now we have to develop something. What we develop is reflecting appropriately develops mindfulness as a factor for awakening, dependent on seclusion, dispassion, cessation, resulting in letting go. So we take the mindfulness practice in level of destroying asavas. I would repeat it here. Mindfulness is there. It's a factor of spirituality, and depending on seclusion, dispassion, cessation, resulting in letting go. When you practice mindfulness, you would be able to experience seclusion. It means you feel that your mind has stopped wandering and experience kind of relaxation. You are not passionate about sensual pleasure, but you dispassion. You take your mind out of temporary happiness but put into longer, deeper happiness. And cessation, you do not attach to any of those uh, temporary things. You have let go them off. If you practice mindfulness into that level, that is the developing of mindfulness with the way you avoid asavas. Now you and all of us should understand that mindfulness, 1 hour mindfulness practice here or anywhere, doesn't make much sense if you want to come to this level. It has to be practiced in age, postures. While we are talking, we should maintain a level of mindfulness. Need to be careful not to say bad things, not to say bad ideas. Use the proper words and proper sentences to make others happy, to make myself okay with the training. When we eat, we have to eat mindfully. When you drive, we have to eat mindfully. We maintain a level of mindfulness relative to the practice, relative to the actions we do. That type of mindfulness should be developed in order to destroy taints. But if you want to live a life that has everything, you don't need to take mindfulness factor into this level. Do you understand what I'm saying? People take mindfulness is been a very popular practice in meditation today. But remember that mindfulness is only one factor that we develop from meditation. There are so many other qualities to develop, but only mindfulness is known to many people. Mindfulness in eating, mindfulness in office, mindfulness in business, mindfulness in traveling, mindfulness in studying, mindfulness in teaching, which is really good. But how, here we have developed analysis of quality. It's called awakening factor, persistent, rapture, serenity, concentration. These are other qualities that we should develop in meditation. But popularly, we take only mindfulness. Why? People want to make their mundane life regular and without any problem. But it doesn't work. That's why a lot of people, though they practice mindfulness, are not happy because they lack of other spiritual qualities. They target only developing mindfulness. And remember that mindfulness alone could not be developed. We have to apply the other factors. Let's take the Noble Eightfold Path. It means that we have 8 factors. Mindfulness is only one. We have the other 7. If one considers developing the other 7 factors also, he or she does not find difficulty in developing mindfulness. But if you pay much attention to develop only mindfulness, you are not going to develop it to the highest extent of mindfulness because you lose the developing of the other 7. So we have to develop them together. That's what Buddha said. That's the Buddhist way of practicing mindfulness. It doesn't mean that you could not develop the mindfulness into a certain extent. Of course you could, because by sitting for an hour or so once a week you could feel relaxation and joy and so forth. It is there, but that state of experience uh, does not stop creating problem for us. We are still in problems, we are still in crying and in suffering. Those who practice mindfulness in daily basis, in retreats and so forth, express their displeasure about life. They are still not happy. Why? They lack of other spiritual qualities. They don't have endurance, they don't have patience, they don't have enough wisdom, they do not have the quality called samadhi, and they don't have what you call problem solving skills, which is a part of wisdom. They do not pay attention to those things. But they pay attention to mindfulness because everybody is going to meditation with cushions and yoga mat, and so it's a kind of trend. But as we are wise, we have to understand that we should specifically pay attention to other spiritual qualities if we really need to develop mindfulness with its full scope.
Yeah, those ones are the ones that will go rob the bank mindfully.
That's right. I heard from Ajahn Brahma also that he said that there was a lady who owns a house, and she had a security guard, and one day she went out giving some advice like be mindful about the house and everything. I go for 3 days, and so when I come back, nothing wrong happened, so be mindful. That's how she advised this security guard. And then on the first day night, the security guard saw a person jump from the fence and slowly came into the house and entered to the house, and he saw everything. He's mindful about everything, right? So he's mindful that the person opened the cupboard and take jewelries and money and every valuable things. And after 3 days, the lady came and found that everything is missing. Then she asked the security guard, "What happened? The house is robbed." "Yes, madam, I saw a person coming from this way, and I saw he was entering the house, and I was mindful of his leaving and so forth, because you asked me to be mindful about everything." That's a
good story.
A story to tell that just mindfulness cannot make any sense. There should be wisdom and perseverance and everything there for the security guard to take actions. Taking action is a part of wisdom. Mindfulness, the quality of mindfulness does only noticing things. We notice feeling arise. We notice perception arise. We notice people go and sin. We notice. Mindfulness means you are mindful about what is happening in the body, in the mind, around you and so on. Wisdom has been taking the responsibility to do something. So people go for meditation just to develop mindfulness, which is okay, but they have to be mindful to develop wisdom, to develop perseverance, patience. In order to develop mindfulness, people should have patience. If there is no patience, they are going to turn this way and that way, change the posture, and they feel anger about not getting that peaceful state, though the instructor tell about this and that. So if there is no patience and wise attention or wisdom, he wouldn't do anything in mindfulness state. So now we know that we have to develop everything together. It's just like taking subjects in a school, in a class. You must be a skillful person in maths. How about if you do only maths? Can you pass the exam? No, you have to be you have to learn science, history, languages, biology, whatever logic, all these logic. Then only you pass the exam. Learning mindfulness and practicing mindfulness is meditation is just like going to maths class and sit only for maths paper to pass the exam. You could not. You have to take care of everything.
So when you conduct meditation classes, how do you cover that part?
Very good. So I try my best to cover each and every aspect of here. Mindfulness, Dhammavicaya, investigation, and all these factors. That's for that end I try my best to advise during the meditation. So actually, if we need to develop all these factors in meditation, we have to learn them ahead of meditation. These sessions are for that. So wisdom, should be developed, in my view, out of meditation most often, because in the meditation you take a subject of meditation, for example breathing, and then you find mind is going this way and that way. Now you remember, in the sutta discussion he asks us to be strong in the position, in the direction of attention, and Buddha has told this, and there were monks who experienced the same thing, and he did this with this. So you take that information into the moment and apply. So that's your wisdom part. That's your memory comes into play. So you apply the method of overcoming restlessness and wandering through wisdom, and you would experience kind of pain. Now you think that it is a feeling that is unpleasant, and Buddha asks us to be mindful about it a little bit before changing the posture. Perhaps you could avoid that unpleasant feeling by pondering, by thinking about it. So that's how you use perseverance, virya. Suppose you hear some noises non-stop. You cannot go and ask all these people to stop talking because I'm meditating here, right? Only thing you could do is accepting it. Endurance should be applied. Then you would be easy with your focus. So we can apply each and every aspect of the meditation if we really know that. That's why these classes, discussion classes, reading, one way or two way or group discussion are important.
So developing mindfulness is not actually the Buddhist meditation.
Yes, it is.
It is?
It is, but we should be careful to apply the other things as well. What I am saying is that only mindfulness could not be developed, or the mindfulness could not be developed alone. Buddha has clearly said that Noble Eightfold Path, which means the 8 factors, should be developed together. If you are going to develop one aspect of it alone, something wrong happens. So at the end, I want to show you this, the 7 methods and the 8 path factors. As I told you, we have 7 methods, which means seeing, restraining, and so forth. We we discussed 7 methods of destroying taints of asavas or fetters, and how they are going to how they connect with the 8 path factors. We can say 7 asavas on the right side, and the Pali terms for that for them in the middle. Now we focus the left side, which has 8 path factors. Right view. With right view, you can do the first one. Abandoning in influxes, abandoning by seeing means you develop right understanding of the Noble Eightfold Path. When we come to restraining part, we develop right intention and speech, the second and third of the Noble Eightfold Path. Influxes abandoned by reflective use. When we comes to it, we develop right actions. Influxes abandoned by endurance, we develop right livelihood. Influxes abandoned by avoidance, it is right effort. Influxes abandoned by removal, it is mindfulness. And the last one, influxes abandoned by cultivation, we develop samadhi. So it's a kind of interpretation of someone. It is not purely from the Buddha's teaching, but it is right. On one side, you develop Noble Eightfold Path. That means you are doing your best to avoid or destroy the 7 asavas, fetters. And if we say this from this side, right side, when you practice seeing, restraining, reflective use, endurance, avoidance, removal, and cultivation, you are practicing Noble Eightfold Path simultaneously. So that's the end of Sabbasawa Sutta. I could go on and on with different factors, but time has been gone now, so we have to stop the class here. I hope you find this course is difficult and deep, and there are things that we could not understand by just thinking. Many of them should be tested with the way we practice, with the way we live, right? So it's a practical discourse. Why? Buddha started by saying that I explain these things only for someone who has seeing ability to see things as they are. So this is therefore difficult, but we can carry on our practice by combining some of these, as you said. Having said that, we end today's class. May you be well, happy and peaceful. May you be able to experience joy, spiritual joy, always. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.